Hi, this is Megan Gunderson. This is my final project for MIT 812 at Fort Hays State University. I created an Introduction to Inupiat Culture for Urban Students course. My son, who is one now, is Alaska Native Inupiat, as is my husband, and we live in an urban area very far away from their native culture and all the traditions and lessons and things that they would learn just through osmosis almost. My son will not get that. And so I kind of recognized a need because my son is not the only urban Inupiat person on the planet. There's a definite need for young students, particularly middle school age, but even all the way up through high school, college, of students who want to know more about their culture but who are not physically close to it. So I created just an introductory course. Were it to be fleshed out, it could even be an elective in a middle or high school, if Alaska state standards were linked to it and such. Those Google Plus communities for two reasons. One, I really like the way that discussions are so easy to facilitate on Google. It's really built around having discussions, and of course all the notification features are nice too, especially for instructors. So when discussions are happening and when you might need to break in with some advice. Also, I mean, I had considered Adobe Captivate, and I really just didn't have time to learn that program. The downside, I think, with Adobe Captivate, though it would be perhaps a little bit seamless, more seamless of a course than on Communities, it wouldn't have that discussion piece so heavily involved. So I it seemed to work out all right. Were I to broaden the course and fully complete it, I would probably do a little more experimenting and see which shell is really the best for it. So looking at the course, over here I started with an introduction, and on that page I have pinned the animation that I made earlier for 812, MIT 812. And it's an introduction video just explaining what the course is going to be about, hitting the main points, which turn out to be the modules of the lesson. And I won't play it because it's already been played elsewhere on our MIT 812 board. For Module 1, which is about subsistence foods, I created, instead of a Powtoon, I created a Google slide presentation that the student could click through for the information. The idea is, I mean, they can look at it embedded or full screen it, which I'll do for you. So it goes through what is subsistence hunting and gathering, and then talks about all the different native foods that the student may or may not be familiar with, particularly if they are very far away from the North Slope, not just Anchorage, but down here in the lower 48. It's hard to get these foods. Only native people can legally hunt them. So sending them is a bit of an expensive issue. So kind of talks about each animal, when it's hunted on the North Slope region for Inupiat people, and different ways that it is used in foods. Most of them are consumed raw, but some of them are also cooked in different ways. So I try to make some notes on the side for them, and I'll just quickly run through here so you can get an idea. I try to include not just the food aspect of subsistence hunting and gathering, but also that they use the entire animal or plant for things: the fur, the sinew, the oil, even particularly in the past, but it's used now for other things, not just lighting fuel. And this is a big piece that I would hit on in another module, that Inupiat culture is really about sharing and sharing everything that you have, and making sure your whole people are healthy and not just you and your immediate family, which is hard to get when you are away from the village and you're not living in that lifestyle. You're living in an urban, all for one sort of mentality where you take care of yourself first. It's very different. I can see I did not change the photo here, so I need to go back and do that. For the first assignment, there would be a checkpoint uh, so that they can kind of check in, and I can collect, since it's in Google Forms, I can collect all of the data in just one spreadsheet and see how many students are taking it, how they're doing, if I need to adjust the PowerPoint, if students are getting a particular question wrong or they have a different idea of what life is really like, subsistence hunting. And then also I included an assignment that is a little bit more open-ended. I asked them to contact a family relative or a friend and get a traditional recipe that uses one of those animals or plants as really the focus of the recipe. And if for some reason they just don't have access to anybody on the North Slope, then a quick Google search. There's a few different organizations like the Inupiat Heritage Museum or Alaska Native Knowledge Network that have compiled some traditional resources for people not in the area. Okay, so that's that. That's Module 1. I included a recipe board that the students could post all of the recipes that they find, and that way they can kind of see things that they wouldn't have had access to from the people they know, and kind of start that idea of sharing knowledge, which is really a main tenet of the culture. I did include a discussion board for just broad discussion, not necessarily about a particular module, but just so that there can be a good back and forth. If this were to become a real course, I would love for there to be a few elders from various communities, people who are really part of the community, who could serve as sort of digital mentors to young urban Inupiat students. As well as the instructor could also access the discussion board and kind of impart some of the cultural knowledge. So that is that. Obviously, this is not an entire course yet. I did the first mod. Were I to do the whole thing, it would take quite a long time. I would expect there to be, I don't know, at least 7 modules, but could be upwards to 10, depending on how involved it got, and if it was really a semester-long course. So that is my final project. I hope you enjoyed it. Please comment with any questions or suggestions you might have, and I'm going to go back and fix that one photo that I just saw. It's been great seeing everybody's projects. I watched them all today and in the past few days, and we really have some talented students in our program. So thank you for sharing, and I hope to see you in a future course.